Blessing. So I got this young lady's channel pulled up, Tyra Spaulding. I was watching her past couple of days and I went to sleep vexed. I was really troubled by her testimony, by her content. This young lady, she unplugged herself from the matrix. She gave in to suicidal ideation. She took herself out. At least that's what's the story that is being told. And it just really vexed and broke my heart because she's so beautiful, she's so young, just a really childlike spirit, very carefree and sincere. And it just really hurt me to see that she wasn't surrounded by the spiritual support that she needed to really overcome the obstacles that this life presents. And her style of content, it really brought me back to the days of when YouTube first started. Her just the way she would vlog, laying in her bed or just kind of sitting up in her room and whatnot, and how she would just speak whatever came to her mind, like in just innocence and just like I said, a child like carefree type of way. Um, it just reminded me of the simpler times of YouTube, where people didn't worry about everything being picture perfect and polished and high quality and doing all the editing and all of the theatrics and having a script and trying to be all just perfect, you know, not just only the style of her content, but the spirit of her aura. Like people used to really be like that. And it just made me realize that she was literally in a timeline that was more innocent, more pure. Um, she didn't transition well to the time that we're in, the timeline that we are in today. She didn't really transition well at all. And that's why she was looking around her like, what is going on? What is wrong with everybody? Why is everybody so uptight? Why is everybody so serious? Let's just have fun. Let's just, lay back and kick it and, let's just really be like a carefree butterfly. That's the type of aura she gave off. You know, um, like I said, people at the beginning of YouTube was more bubbly, was more just jovial and wasn't so intense and didn't take it just so seriously. People were more looser and the way that they talk, they just flow with whatever they wanted to talk about. It wasn't scripted like it is. So she was in a different timeline and she wanted to really know the meaning of life. She wanted to know her purpose. She wanted to know why she's here. She really wanted to know about God. And it's just sad that she didn't have the guidance, really. She didn't really have the guidance, the proper spiritual influence, the spiritual guide that she need, to really help her to know who she is in God. And she tells her story of how she got baptized and everything, and she was in a church, but she was being targeted. She was being organized gang stalked for sure because this particular video right here, and I did watch another gentleman break down this testimony. This is what even prompted me to go to her channel and watch her videos because I didn't know she had a channel prior to this gentleman talking about how she's actually a targeted individual. She was actually targeted. Her father was a Freemason, so undoubtedly he sacrificed his purest child, which was her. Even though she said her father died be- before her, her father was already passed, still he sacrificed her while he was alive. he put a spell, a curse upon her life and ruined her whole timeline. Her whole trajectory was thrown off balance, off of course, because of her wicked family. So her family could not help her because they all seemed to be demonized. I mean, she didn't go into her family. I'm sure she could have, but her being such a pure, delicate, sweet soul, she didn't want to smear her family. She didn't want to put them out there like that. She basically kind of covered for them in a way. But those who are spiritual and can discern beyond the veil, beyond what is presented, we know that her family was no good. They did not help her. They targeted her. At one point in this video, she said somebody's at the door listening. They was listening to her every move. They was disappointed that she didn't maximize her look. She didn't take advantage of her beauty, her youthfulness, because she at one point she was in competitive beauty competition. She was competing in pageants and shows and whatnot. And I believe she actually won Miss Jamaica. So she's a gorgeous young lady, but I'm sure the people around her wanted her to be sacrificed in that industry. They wanted her to sell her soul, siphon, get her soul siphoned in that particular realm of beauty competition, because in that realm there's a lot of demons. If you're not totally sold out and full of yourself and egoic and just narcissistic and thinking you're the baddest and the most beautiful and the most fairest of them all, you are not going to succeed in that industry. She don't have that type of spirit. That was not her energy. So I'm sure her handlers and gang stalkers was upset and livid that she wasn't making them money in a beauty world. She didn't sell her looks for money. She didn't maximize her looks. She didn't capitalize on her beauty and her youthfulness and her aesthetic. So thusly, she said she went the educational route. She graduated. She got her degree. She went into accounting. She said she never liked it. She never enjoyed it, but she just did it because it was something to do and she was good at it because she's smart. But she said she hated it. It drained her life force. Even the people on her job, she talked about how they were monitoring her, they were stalking her, they were harassing her, they were setting her up, they were organized street theater or just organized targeting her. And it's all spiritual first and foremost. These people that are gang stalkers, they agree spiritually. They're being used by unclean spirits that makes them organized, that makes them on one accord in unison. They're just zombified puppets of Satan, and she was their minstrel show. She was their main objective, to sacrifice her and for them to upgrade in the demonic ranks, for them to upgrade in those covens, in their witchery, in their sorcery, and all of their evil cults. So it's sad because like I said, she at one point talks about how she gave her life to Christ, and she was really going down a narrow path. She was really devoted to God, doing what it takes to be righteous. She was, abstaining from sin, abstaining from lust, abstaining from worldly things. But another gang stalker that was in her life, she let him back in. Her ex-boyfriend, who clearly was a devil, clearly was a reprobate, clearly was just a handler, a tool for Satan, a agent Smith, and she let him back in. He just devastated her life. He really is what caused her to spiral uncontrollably downward. No doubt he probably physically abused her, emotionally. I'm sure he cheated on her. I'm sure he called her out of her name. You can literally tell how delicate she is just by looking at her. Look how sweet and you can tell when somebody is just like childlike in essence. Albeit, like I said, she did at some points. I seen her videos. Like I said, 2 days I watched her videos, and like I said, I went to sleep troubled and vexed and sorrowful. So, At one point in her videos, she was talking about how she was doubting God and she don't understand the Bible because she went to some church and even the pastor was gang stalking her. She said one individual in the church, a member, this man, she said she was terrified of him. She was definitely afraid, and it was unreasonable, unrational on the surface because they didn't have any negative rapport. They didn't have any negative exchange in the past or anything. So it was like a unreasonable, irrational type of fear. But she said she just feared him, like seriously feared that man. And I'm sure he was a wizard, a sorcerer, a mason. And none of them helped her. None of them helped her to get rid of the devil, to really elevate, to really open up her gift because she clearly is clairvoyant. She clearly was being tapped into a spiritual frequency, and God was really dealing with her to open her eye, get her eye open, her spiritual eye. And the devil was just really fighting against her so she could be just a lost, a lost person in the world. I'm not saying anything about where she went in the afterlife. That's not my say. That's not my call. I don't have any vote to give on that, That's up to the Most High where she went in the afterlife because her even being transparent, being open, being honest, being just 100% authentic in confessing her unbelief, confessing her doubts about God, even though it don't sound, it's not, I wouldn't recommend you doubt God, but nevertheless, she was being honest and being open in her videos, being very candid. I'm sure that was accounted to her righteousness. I'm sure that was accredited to her her righteousness before God. Her just admitting her faults, admitting her her sins, that translate in the spiritual realm. It is accredited to your spiritual account. So I'm sure God looked on that and had mercy. I pray her soul is in peace with the Most High. I pray she has every question that she ever wondered, every inquiry that she ever had. I pray that it all has been answered. Is all being answered. I pray that her soul is at rest. I pray that, when the Most High weighed her in the balance, that all the good that she's done in her life on earth, that it outweighs the darkness, and all of the darkness will be alchemized into light, that she would be transformed, that she would be made whole. I pray. And I know this sound esoteric, the Bible thumpers and the religious people, the religious zealots, they may look at me strange and they may say that I'm being naive and I'm deviating from the word. No, I believe that God can save whoever he wants to save. God can do whatever. God got the keys to death, hell, and the grave. God can save whomever God wants to, whomever God wills. God is the ultimate judge, jury, prosecutor. God is the one that got the holy gavel. God is the one. Okay, so I don't have any judgment as to where her soul is, but I just pray that it is in peace with the Most High. Because, like I said, her willing to confess her sins is accredited for righteousness. That's a good thing. These couple of videos, she probably thought she was just doing it just to be doing it just to pass time. But look, she getting 24K, 52K, 41K, 50K. She helping people. This is accredited for her righteousness. This goes on her spiritual account for good. This was not for naught. It was not for vain. It was not for no reason. Her being open, it helps a lot of people. It helps a lot of people. And she got baptized in Christ's name. She believed at one point. She just like I said, didn't have the hand to help her, to hold her, to love her, to really guide her spiritually, to be there for her. She didn't have nobody. That's sad. I pray that I don't be that determining factor for someone to say that they don't have nobody. In other words, I pray that whoever is in my circle, in my realm, in my vicinity, whoever I know, I pray that there be no one that think that they don't have anybody. I pray that I can be that one to help someone in need that feels like they're so alone, that they feel like they're lost. I really do wish I could have met this young lady. I wish we could have crossed paths, but nevertheless, the Most High's will be done. I can't say that there's any mistake with that because it wasn't meant to be for us to cross physical paths. But, I'm crossing her path right now. I just wanted to say this. Like I said, she really took me back to a simpler time that many don't even think about, how the timeline of early 2000s, like mid 2000s, how people were just more simpler and easygoing, and they just really came before their social media, came before the camera, more of their authentic selves. People were more happier. Even though she unalived herself, she took her life, there was still a jovial joy there. There was still, like, people used to be like this. Aside from, like I said, the suicidal ideations, aside from the turmoil or whatnot, her jovialness, her joyfulness, her just bubbliness, and her little bit of awkwardness and quirkiness. People used to be like that on a mass scale, and they were presented with no shame. But now in this timeline, 2025, many people are egoic. They're afraid to be their authentic selves. They have lost connection with their authentic selves, with their childlike essence. They're fearful of man's reaction. They want approval from random people that they don't even know on the internet. You know, she didn't like, that wasn't her aura, and I see why she didn't fit in. I'm sure they thought she was weird. Look, she ain't trying to be a baddie. She ain't trying to be, overly sexual. She ain't trying to be just this it girl, this city girl, this hot girl, like the typical melanated woman want to be. That program, that baddie program, deception, delusion. She wasn't even on that. So I'm sure everybody around her that was programmed with various different programs could not understand her because she was a glitch in the matrix. Aside from what she did, I'm sad about what happened. And that's allegedly. We don't know if these gang stalkers really, took her out of here, because I'm sure there was some coven. Like I said, her dad was a Freemason. There was some coven, some witch, some Masonic lodge, some dark, just devilish, malevolent, malevolent evil going on behind the scenes, and they probably literally did harm to her. Nevertheless, it's probably more than likely she did it to herself because she was talking about it. She was talking about how she was just so tempted. But even with that, they can do those things behind the scenes. They can, with the power of persuasion and the power of suggestion, with these spells, they can get in your ear remotely. They can get in the ethers, get in the airways, get in the unseen realm, and put ideologies, ideations, evil thoughts into your head, into your mind, into your aura sphere if you're not guarded. So I'm sure that's what happened to her. And I remember at one point I myself was struggling with ideations. And I'm talking about as I was on my journey with Christ. I'm not talking about before I got baptized and was in the world just lost and following the crowd and programmed and being a normie. No, I'm talking about as I was awakening, walking in with Christ, I had these moments of being down in the dumps, just devastated, just out of gas, exhausted, and nobody knows these silent storms that I persevered through by the grace of God. So I can relate to her. I can't get on my high horse and try to, make it seem like I never struggled with that. I did. Although it wasn't an ongoing thing, it wasn't an everyday thing that I woke up and I just wanted to self-harm and delete. She said she was dealing with that every day. She would hear the voices as soon as she wake up. For me, it wasn't like that, but nevertheless, I still had moments. I remember one time I was in my apartment some years back, just struggling, man, and I was contemplating deleting myself, and I made a makeshift, you know, and I don't want to say I'm gonna just say the word noose. I made a makeshift noose, and I was gonna, you know, I was gonna take myself out that way. But I thought about it. I was like, nah, nah. I just fought it by the grace of God. So I can relate, and my soul is vexed, to see a beautiful, adorable, sweet, just childlike soul be just overwhelmed. And she also reminds me of this other lady some years back, Chesley Christ. And I remember I wrote like a letter, a poem about her. I'm gonna read it uh perhaps in another video. I don't have it pulled up right now, but she really touched me. It really hurt me. This beautiful young lady. It's something about that wicked pageant industry, that wicked competitive beauty industry that puts a demon over, like, it puts a strong hold, a strong principality over the ones that are innocent and pure in spirit and just want to, they want to just be beautiful and have their career and explore that field. But it's very dangerous, evidently, because they discard of you, first of all. I hear that they discard of you as soon as you hit like 20, is it like 23? Somewhere in your early 20s, you're considered expired goods in that industry. They're constantly rotating younger girls. Like it's a never-ending revolving door that they just want the youthful girls. And the older you get, the more they feel like you're just nothing. And so she was 30, and I'm sure that demon, that principality was just telling her, like, you're too old, your time is up, like, you can't compete anymore. Look at her, just dazzling, beautiful. I mean, I was just so vexed to hear that, like, she didn't want to live anymore. And she had another job outside of beauty. She was like hosting for talk show and stuff. Like she was definitely unassuming. Like she did not look like she was not happy. But aside from, like, if you cover up her mouth and her nose and just look at her eyes, you could see a deep sadness. You could see a deep sadness in her eyes. And I'm sure she was happy when she won, definitely. Can see some joy, spark of joy there. But after that, the show must go on. And like I said, you age rapidly in that industry according to their standards. And I also feel like she had like some witches over her. I think that's her mom. Not, yeah, a queen, a pageant queen took her own life. Her mom I believe it was some sinister people in her family, like the same situation with Tyra. I believe also Chesley had some witches, some hating, devilish witches that wanted to sacrifice her soul so they can upgrade in the ranks, so they can get higher in the demonic ranks, the demonic cults. these havens of these dens of thieves, these evil, reprobated bastards, man. They will sacrifice a beautiful, a beautiful young soul that will get in her mind, get in her head, get in her heart, and just ruin her. And they love it. I'm sure the witches, the wizards, the sorcerers, they sat back and they laughed and they just um, celebrated over her finally deleting herself from the program. And I don't know too much about her because she didn't have like a candid page where she was bearing her soul like Tyra. So, the world will never know exactly her full story or even bits and pieces of her story because she was more just hidden behind glam and behind a beautiful smile and behind the flashing lights and behind the performance. She was more so just very secretive about her situation. Even though she did write a goodbye letter, it's just we don't know what really triggered her. We don't know the cascading events that took place that spiraled her downhill. We don't know. I'm sure she has some weird boyfriend, some jealous ex, somebody, just a group of gang stalkers that harassed her spiritually, literally, just a group of people that targeted her, that organized in sync information targeted her. And like I said, it's spiritual first and foremost. They get in unity, they get in sync spiritually because the devil is the puppeteer. So they Bluetooth with one another at Satan's beckoning call, at Satan's will. That's why the Bible say they're under the sway of the evil one. They don't have no control. So even though if it's not something that's like written out and itemized and they have like this plan and this itinerary and oh you do this and then I'm going to do this to her, and even if it's not like fully laid out like a plan, like a blueprint with this organized gang stalking, it's spiritually organized, it's spiritually blueprinted, and they're all on one accord. These demons that hate the light, you could just tell a sweet soul. If you have discernment, you could just tell when a person's just sweet, innocent, and have a purity about them, a childlike essence. So that's what I want to say in this video. It's sad. It hurt my heart, But God is the ultimate judge. I pray their souls find the answers, the peace, the refuge, the love, the light that they evidently couldn't find on planet Earth, you know, that they were searching for and couldn't find here, sadly. But, I just want to share that. Excuse me, I'm a bit vexed. This was all impromptu, spur of the moment, and I just came back from the gym and it was just on my spirit to really talk about these young ladies and just share my insight and share my heart. It's sad that nobody loved them around them. Yeah, people are coming out, now saying that they love them, and people are giving in their flowers and talking about how beautiful they are, how bright they are, how wonderful, but they're not here to see it. As far as we know, they're not here. Why can't we do this while people are here? This is how you know we're under deception. We're under such a strong spell of delusion. We don't appreciate people while they're here. We push away people while they're here. We ignore people while they're here. People are crying out and we just push them away. We say, go pray about it. We're very dismissive. uncaring. And I've been guilty of it. Because you know the pressure of this world and all of this exhausting matrix, all of this spiritual congestion, all of this just irritating. I have dismissed people, but like I said, I don't ever want to be in contact or be in a position where somebody who's crying out like Tyra, they're crying out and I don't hear them. I don't see them. I don't love them. I don't ever want, and it's some people that comes to mind. It's a few people that come to mind as I'm speaking on this, but those people push me away. So, I've tried to present myself to reach out to people, to help people, to be a light, to be loving, to be kind, to be just, with open arms. But people they push me away. And I'm sorry I'm glitching. This is what this Zoom do. And they want you to pay for the pro. No, y'all doing this and y'all can't even. Anyway, it's just a lot. It's a lot that's on my spirit. And I'm just gonna let the Lord deal with me. I'm gonna meditate. I just want to be a light. I just want to help people. I pray to help. I don't ever want someone just so beautiful and so pure and so innocent to fall prey to the wicked, evil realm of darkness. Not if I can help it. Not on my watch. So help me God. So thank you so much for watching. God bless y'all. In Jesus' name.